예, 안녕하십니까.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am GeunSub from Korea Maritime Institute.
저는 오늘 준비한 주제는
Today, I
5G와
prepared a presentation on 5G based intelligent port.
내용에 많은 기술적인 부분들이 많이 들어가 있는 건 아니고
My presentation does not cover much technical aspects.
우리가 이제 쉽게
Today,
이용할 수 있는
I want to
스마트항만이라는
talk about
취지에 대해서
what smart port really means because we are often confused about the meaning of smart port.
왜 우리가
I
5G와
also would like to explain why we should connect 5G with ports and how other countries are using 5G for their ports.
우리와의 차이점인 것을
And
우리가
there is a difference between what we're doing and what other countries are doing.
어떻게 가야 하는 것이
I will
방향성을
walk through such differences and what we need to do for the future.
스마트항만이라는 정의를 좀 먼저
Let's first have a look at the definition of smart
보면 이제
port.
스마트항만 하면 많은
When
분들이
you think of smart port, many people are confused because many people think that smart port may mean automation functions of ports. And if you look at the etymology of smart, in the very ancient times, smart, the word originates from the English ancient word smart. Originally, smart meant pain, but the meaning of the modern smart is not different from the ancient smart because in order to become smart, you have to make painstaking efforts. I'm talking about the origin of the word smart because there are something we need to consider.
명확하게 규정한 것은 없습니다.
There is no clear definition of smart
많이 보셨던
port,
것입니다. AI
but you may have heard these terminologies a lot: AI, big data, IoT, and blockchain.
적용하는
Different technologies are combined to achieve automation
개인적으로 좀 중요하게
and smartness.
하나의 표입니다.
This is a very important picture, in my opinion.
그냥 바로 스마트로 진입을 한다라고 생각하시는
People usually think that we can right away achieve smartization, but smartization
첫 번째 단계가
can be achieved through different stages. The first stage is automation, second stage is intelligentization, and the third stage is smartization.
자동화와 이꼴이다.
Many people think that being smart means being automated, but that's not the truth. In order to become smart, you first have to finish automation. Automation is about physical automation that minimizes human intervention. Intelligentization focuses on software and minimizes human intervention in decision-making process. The last phase is smartization.
사실은 초연결입니다.
To define smartization, I could say hyperconnectivity is the key to smartization.
가상적 공간을
It means that we can connect the virtual space with physical space and we can make an integrated decision and then we can make an integrated decisions. In terms of automation, ports have transformed from conventional ports into automated ports. Yard tractors were also automated and remote control is available. This photo is from Dubai. There is a system like Box Bay, which is one of the automated systems at port. Digitalization is about connectivity. There are 4 steps: between ship and port, between ship and ship,
항만 내에서 모든 주체들이
and all stakeholders and parties at the port will be connected with each other, with ships as well, and connection with hinterland and the connection across the globe is also included in the concept of digitalization.
생태계 전체가
Smartization is represented by the concept of digital twin and the smart ecosystem
앞장했으니
on the
이제
picture.
마이너스 스마트 5G 그
Now,
하고
I will show you use cases of 5G and the necessity of 5G
뭐 여러 가지
at smart ports. There are many reasons that require that we need a smart port.
글로벌 공급망이
First of all, global supply chain has uncertainties.
이루어지고 있고
Now we have uncertainties in the global supply chain, and the uncertainty takes place very often. So,
안정성이
port operation became more complicated, so we have to ensure stability in port operation. Another reason is that the size of ships became larger. It means that the amount of cargo, the volume of cargo increased per ship,
통상적으로
and the and then the port will have heavier
그에
burdens.
따라서 야드를 운영하는 것도 굉장히
This gives complexity to the yard operation, and the amount of yard use will also increase.
가속화도 하나의 이유
Automation is being accelerated as well. For example, at the port, we use remote control technology to load and unload cargoes. But still, we're lack of connectivity. Also, there's an increasing demand for eco-friendly port operation. And it became more important to properly manage the ships that the inbound and outbound ships, and energy consumption is increasing and the price is also increasing. We need to manage the energy that is used at port operation. Also, there's an increasing interest in port safety and regulations. Port workers are still exposed to safety risks. So, ensuring port workers' safety is very important. Considering this trend, digitalization and smartization are not an option but a must.
스마트화를 하는 목적을
Then, what is the purpose of creating smart ports? There are 6 purposes,
공동이 되어 있습니다.
and you may be confused between automation and smartization. The first purpose of smart port is to improve productivity, improving competitiveness of the port, and enhancing rational decision making. Stability and decision making could represent the purpose of smart ports.
뭐 여러 형태와 방식으로 추진을 하고 있습니다.
Smart port is being developed through many different ways, but there are limits in smartization. The first limit is that
RTGC를 쓰고 있는 곳도 많습니다. 그럼 저런 것들을
many ports are using RTGC, and cargo handling system has been operated in an inefficient way. Basically, they're using optical fibers, which gives limits in terms of the operation space. Secondly, equipment are less connected to each other, and
여전히 좀 부족한 상황입니다.
real-time information transfer is not being done fully at the ports. For example, real-time transfer of high-quality video and message is not really being done properly at the port. There is a higher demand for high-quality video and data, so the data capacity is getting larger. At the port, there's a large amount of data generated from ships, containers, trucks, port workers, equipment, and gates. So there's a large number of data sets. Not only the amount of data, but also the speed of data is getting faster. And there are diverse types of data. In the past, we used signal-based data. Now we use image-based data. That's why the size and types of data are being diversified. And we still have high risks in terms of safety. It's still difficult to identify real-time location of port workers, and the port workers are still exposed to risks during operation at the port. If you look at the accidents at the port, many accidents take place due to the refrigerating containers. Such items, including refrigerating containers, should be monitored on a real-time basis. And many people are talking about AI, IoT, and machine learning, but it will take some more time for us to actually apply AI, IoT, and machine learning to port operation. This is related to the lack of real-time, high-quality data. As I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, smart port is about hyperconnectivity. In other words, virtual space is connected with the physical space. 5G is often associated with hyperspeed, low latency, and hyperconnectivity. Huawei proposed this table. If we do remote control based on video, the latency should be less than 30 milliseconds. The bandwidth should be up to 200 megabps. Reliability should be 99.9%. And IGV and AGV equipment and monitoring function require high level specification and performance level. And how can we satisfy such requirements? 5G is the answer. You may know very well about the advantages of 5G. In terms of speed, 5G is faster than 4G by 5 times. In terms of latency, for example, we see things with our eyes and feel about and have feeling or recognition of the thing in our brain. So the latency time of 5G is similar to the speed of human eye recognition. There are many different actors and devices and technologies being used in the port. And if we apply 5G, there will be a larger number of devices. 5G can cover 1 million devices as opposed to 4G, which covers only 4,000 devices per square kilometer. And another advantage of 5G is network slicing. Through network slicing, we can provide many different independent spaces. For example, computer drive can have C and D drive and as well as A, B, E, F, and G drives as well. This is an example of network slicing. This is Port of Hamburg. First of all, they're monitoring emissions from ships through 5G technology. They're also controlling traffic light through 5G. Port of Hamburg wants to increase the connectivity between the port and the hinterland city because when the cargo is moved from the port to the cities, they should properly control the traffic light, not to give heavier traffic burden in the inland city. They're also using mobile AR and VR technology. Port of Antwerp is applying 5G standalone model. It is also trying to enable real-time video transfer from and to tugboat. So data control center can check the real-time video data sent from tugboat and ensure safety. In the port of Antwerp, there are about 600 cameras. From 600 cameras, they're getting data and use 5G for real-time monitoring. Port of Southampton is using 5G to reduce the data loss, and they have integrated the 5G network into a single network. to improve credibility and security.
제가
And an interesting thing is that Port of Southampton is well aware of the fact that we're lack of real-time analysis data, so they're expanding the application of 5G to include real-time analytics, Internet of Things, and so on. Port of Barcelona can identify the real-time location of port workers through the dashboard. They're focusing on safety of port workers. In the case of Port Yangshan or Qingdao, they're focusing on the real-time remote control.
해외 사례를 말씀드렸던 걸 한번 요약을 해보겠습니다.
So I'd like to summarize the overseas use cases.
한 슬라이드 못 남았는데
I have another slide left, which is going to deal with what we're going to do for the future. First of all, to summarize the overseas use cases, they're using 5G to many different areas. In the case of Korea, we are using remote control functions through 5G, but in the overseas ports, we can see diverse use cases of 5G. For example, they're applying 5G to port safety, the safety of port workers, remote control, and efficient operation of the port.
항만의 어떤 운영을 위한 상황들이
And the port operation became more complicated than before. There are different types of containers, and the amount of cargoes that should be loaded and unloaded have also become different from the past. And making an optimal management of ports became more difficult than ever.
또 하나 차이점은 뭐 완벽하진 않다.
And although it's not perfect, we see many overseas ports are trying to use specialized, dedicated 5G network, although their standalone 5G network is not perfect,
별로 그 이유는 이제 이용의 절감.
because in doing so, they can reduce the cost.
그리고 이제 좀 더 다양한 파트너십을 가지고
And
있다고 볼 수 있을 것 같습니다.
overseas ports are making various partnerships.
한다는 게 것보다는
They're not only partnering with local companies but also with foreign companies because they focus on the technical competence.
굉장히 중요한 포인트 중에
Another important point is that they start small.
크게 하겠다라는 게 아니라
They do not
어떤 눈에 보이지 않는
intend to start big, but they start small and gradually scale up their 5G projects. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the tasks we have to do for the future. First, we should correctly understand the meaning of smart port. Smart is hyperconnectivity. Automation and digitalization should be completed first in order to achieve smartization. Secondly, we need to diversify the applications of 5G. So we have to start small and gradually scale up our efforts. If you try to start big, then you cannot you cannot start at all. You should diversify the application of 5G. Start small as a strategy and gradually scale up your efforts. I think we are already late to do this. And lastly, people are very important. When we talk about smartization, we often overlook the importance of talents, but without talents, without people, we cannot do anything. We often think about technology development, but not about talent development. But everything is about people. Lastly, trials and errors. Many Koreans find it difficult to accept trials and errors. Many Korean people do not like trials and errors because they think they're making void, meaningless efforts, but that's not true. We need to change our mind. Trials and errors are inevitable process we have to go
Thank you very
through.
much, Mr. Kim, Deputy President from KMI, for your presentation.